I'm 71 years old, and I've spent the last 2 years being invisible in my own son's house. My name is Evelyn Crane. I left everything behind in Grand Junction, Colorado. My home, my garden, the life I'd built after my husband died. Because Martin called me, desperate. Mom, we need you. The kids need you. Chelsea's career is exploding. I'm drowning at the firm. And we can't trust anyone else with Emma and Joshua. So I came. I packed 2 suitcases and drove 4 hours to Denver, to their massive Cherry Creek house with vaulted ceilings and marble countertops. And I thought I was doing what mothers do: sacrifice, serve, love without condition. For 2 years, I woke at 5:30 every morning. I made breakfast, walked Emma to school, entertained Joshua, scrubbed bathrooms, folded laundry that wasn't mine, and cooked dinners my daughter-in-law barely touched. Too much salt, Chelsea would say, pushing her plate away. Or, I'm doing keto now, Evelyn. Keep up. Martin worked late, always late, and when he came home, he was too exhausted to notice the way his wife spoke to me. Like I was hired help she couldn't quite fire. I told myself it didn't matter. I was there for the kids, for Emma's gap-toothed smile and Joshua's dinosaur obsessions, for the moments when they climbed into my lap and made me feel needed. But I felt myself disappearing, shrinking, becoming a ghost in expensive hallways. Then came Thanksgiving. Chelsea's parents flew in from Boston, wealthy, polished people who talked about golf clubs and Mediterranean cruises. I spent the day setting the table with wedding china, polishing silver, arranging flowers. The house smelled like rosemary and roasted lamb, catered from some trendy downtown restaurant. When everyone sat down to eat, there was no place set for me. "Oh, Evelyn," Chelsea said, laughing. "You don't mind eating in the kitchen, do you? We're a little crowded out here." I carried my plate to the kitchen, but there was no lamb on it, no glazed carrots, no garlic mashed potatoes, just the heels of a baguette, hard, stale, the pieces no one wanted. I sat at the island, staring at that bread, listening to laughter from the dining room, listening to my son's voice, my grandchildren's voices, a family I was no longer part of. Then Chelsea walked in, heels clicking, wine glass in hand, French wine, $60 a bottle. She looked at my plate and smiled. "You've always been poor, Evelyn," she said, her voice light, almost teasing. "You're used to it, right?" She filled her glass and walked away. I ate that bread in silence, every dry, tasteless bite, and something inside me, something I thought had died when my husband did, woke up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the basement guest room they'd moved me to when Chelsea's parents arrived, staring at the ceiling, replaying those words. "You've always been poor. You're used to it." And I remembered something I had tried to forget. 2 years ago, when Martin and Chelsea bought this house, Martin didn't have enough for the down payment. He came to me, desperate, and I co-signed the loan. I put my house in Grand Junction up as collateral. I risked everything because he was my son, and mothers don't say no. He promised he'd refinance within a year. He never did. At dawn, I made a decision. I called the bank. I requested to be removed as co-signer. The mortgage officer explained it clearly. If you withdraw your guarantee, your son will have 30 days to refinance or pay the loan in full. If he can't, the property enters foreclosure. "I understand," I said. I packed my suitcases. I told Martin I was going home. He was confused, frustrated. "Mom, we need you. The kids need you." "The kids will be fine," I said. "You and Chelsea are capable parents." Chelsea found me packing. She rolled her eyes. "You're really leaving? Over one little comment? God, you're so sensitive." "I've submitted my withdrawal from your mortgage," I said quietly. Her face went white. "What?" "I co-signed your loan. I'm removing my guarantee. You have 30 days. I left that afternoon." I drove back to Grand Junction with my phone buzzing constantly. Martin, Chelsea, furious voicemails, desperate texts. I ignored them all. 3 days later, Martin called. His voice was shaking. "Mom, they're taking the house. Chelsea's parents are trying to help us refinance, but there are conditions. She's..." He broke down. "Why did you do this?" "Because you let your wife treat me like I was nothing. And I needed you to understand. I'm not nothing. I'm your mother." There was a long silence. Then, "I'm sorry, Mom. I should have protected you. I should have seen it." "Yes," I said. "You should have." Now I'm sitting in my house in Grand Junction. My house, the one I almost lost, trying to help my son. I'm drinking coffee on my back porch, watching the sun rise over the book cliffs. And I'm waiting to see if Martin learns from this. Waiting to see if Chelsea understands what she's lost. Waiting to see if my grandchildren will forgive me for choosing myself over their stability. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I did the right thing or if I just burned my family to the ground. But for the first time in 2 years, I can breathe, and that has to count for something, doesn't it? I remember the exact moment I stopped recognizing my own son. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September, 2 years ago, and I was standing in the driveway of my ranch house in Grand Junction, Colorado, watching Martin load the last of my suitcases into his Tesla. The sun was setting behind the book cliffs, painting the sky in shades of amber and rust, and the air smelled like sagebrush and coming rain. I'd lived in that house for 34 years. I'd brought Martin home from the hospital to that house. I'd buried my husband's ashes in the rose garden behind it. "You're sure about this, Mom?" Martin asked, slamming the trunk shut. He was 43 then, wearing a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. His hair was graying at the temples, just like his father's had. But his eyes, Richard's eyes, warm and brown, were tired, desperate even. "I'm sure," I said, though I wasn't. Not really. "Chelsea's really excited to have you," he added quickly. "And the kids. God, Mom. Emma asks about you every single day. When's Grandma coming? When's Grandma coming?" I smiled because that part I believed. Emma was 6 then, gap-toothed and wild-haired, and Joshua was only 3, still learning to string sentences together. I'd seen them maybe twice a year since they were born. Brief visits where Chelsea hovered nearby, correcting the way I held the baby, or suggesting I not give Emma so much sugar. But Martin said they needed me now. He said he needed me, so I locked the front door of the only home I'd ever owned, and I got into his car, and I left. The drive to Denver took 4 hours. Martin talked the whole way, about his job at the law firm, about Chelsea's promotion to senior marketing director, about how expensive childcare was, about how they'd looked into nannies but couldn't find anyone trustworthy. "Your family," he kept saying. "You're the only one I trust with my kids." I watched the landscape change through the passenger window. The red rock mesas gave way to rolling plains. Then the Rockies rose up like a promise on the horizon. I thought about Richard, about the night he'd died. A heart attack at 52, sudden and cruel. Martin had been 19, away at college. I'd called him from the hospital, and he'd driven through the night to get to me. He'd held my hand at the funeral. He'd told me he'd always take care of me. I believed him then, too. The house in Cherry Creek was not what I expected. I'd seen photos, of course, but photos don't capture scale. The place was massive. 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, vaulted ceilings, a kitchen with marble countertops and stainless steel appliances that looked like they belonged in a restaurant. The front yard was professionally landscaped, all ornamental grasses and river rock. An American flag hung beside the front door, limp in the still evening air. Chelsea met us at the door. She was 38, blonde, beautiful in that sharp, angular way that magazine covers love. She wore white linen pants and a silk blouse, and when she hugged me, I smelled expensive perfume, something floral and foreign. "Evelyn," she said brightly. "Welcome, welcome. Let me show you to your room." She led me upstairs, her heels clicking on the hardwood, and opened a door at the end of the hall. The guest room was nice enough. A queen bed with a cream duvet, a small dresser, a window overlooking the backyard. "It's not huge," Chelsea said apologetically. "But it's cozy, right? There's a bathroom right across the hall. You'll share it with the kids, but they're pretty good about cleaning up, usually." I set my suitcase down. "It's perfect, thank you." "Oh, and house rules." She leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. "We're trying to keep the kids on a schedule, so breakfast is at 7, dinner at 6:30. Martin and I usually eat after the kids go down, around 8:30 or 9. More peaceful that way, you know?" She laughed. "Also, we're pretty health conscious, so we try to avoid processed foods, excess sugar, that kind of thing. I'll send you some recipes we like." I nodded, feeling something tighten in my chest. "And one more thing." Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "We really value our privacy, especially in the evenings. So after the kids are in bed, it's kind of our time, you know? Just so we're all on the same page." "Of course," I said. She left and I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the cream-colored walls, wondering what I'd just agreed to. The first morning, I woke at 5:30, out of habit. In Grand Junction, I used to sit on my back porch with coffee, watching the sun rise over the valley, listening to the morning doves. Here the house was silent except for the hum of central air conditioning. I made my way downstairs in my bathrobe and slippers, careful not to wake anyone. The kitchen was spotless, almost sterile. I opened cabinets looking for coffee and found rows of organic teas, protein powders, and supplements with names I couldn't pronounce. Finally, I found a bag of Fairtrade single-origin coffee beans in the freezer. I ground them as quietly as I could and brewed a pot. I was sitting at the kitchen island, cradling a warm mug, when Chelsea appeared at 6:15. She wore yoga pants and a sports bra, her hair pulled into a high ponytail. She looked startled to see me. "Oh, you're up." "I'm an early riser," I said. "Always have been." She poured herself a green smoothie from the refrigerator, pre-made in a glass bottle, and leaned against the counter. "So, I was thinking, since you're here to help with the kids, maybe you could handle breakfast. Nothing fancy, just like oatmeal or eggs or whatever. They eat at 7, before school." "Of course," I said. "Great. Oh, and Emma's lunch needs to be packed. She's really picky. There's a list on the fridge." She took a long sip of her smoothie. "I've got a 7:30 meeting, so I'll be in my office. Martin leaves around 6:45. Thanks, Evelyn. You're a lifesaver." She disappeared down the hall before I could respond. Emma came downstairs at 6:50, dragging a stuffed rabbit by one ear. She was small for 6, with Martin's brown eyes and Chelsea's sharp chin. She stood in the doorway of the kitchen staring at me. "Hi, sweetheart," I said gently. "Remember me? I'm Grandma Evelyn." She nodded slowly. "Are you hungry? I can make you pancakes, or eggs, or oatmeal." "Mommy says I have to eat oatmeal," she said quietly, "with blueberries, no sugar." I made the oatmeal. I found the blueberries in the fridge. Organic, expensive. I heated milk instead of water, stirred in a tiny bit of honey when Emma wasn't looking, and brought the bowl to the table. She ate slowly, silently, swinging her legs under the chair. "Do you like school?" I asked. She shrugged. "What's your favorite subject?" "Art," she said. Then, after a pause, "Are you going to live here now?" "For a while," I said. "Is that okay?" She looked at me with those serious brown eyes. "Will you read to me?" My throat tightened. "Every night, if you want." She smiled. Small, tentative. It was the first real smile I'd seen in that house. Joshua was easier. He was 3, round-faced and chubby-legged, and when he saw me, he ran straight into my arms. Gamma!" he shouted, and I held him tight, breathing in the baby shampoo smell of his hair. "Hi, little man," I whispered. "I got dinosaurs," he announced, wriggling free. "You want to see?" I would love to see. He dragged me to the playroom and showed me every single plastic dinosaur in his collection, narrating their names and favorite foods with absolute seriousness. I sat on the floor with him, my knees aching, and listened. For the first time since I'd arrived, I felt useful, needed. Martin came in at 7:30, already dressed for work, holding a travel mug of coffee. "Mom, you're amazing." "Thank you. I've got to run. Early deposition. Chelsea's in her office. She'll be out around 9. He kissed the top of Joshua's head, waved at Emma, and was gone. I looked around the playroom, toys scattered everywhere, juice stains on the rug, a stack of picture books tipping over. I looked at Emma, finishing her oatmeal in silence. I looked at Joshua, crashing his T-Rex into a plastic volcano, and I thought, this is why I'm here. For them. The first week passed in a blur of routines I didn't create but was expected to maintain. I woke early, made breakfast, walked Emma to the bus stop 3 blocks away, came home and entertained Joshua, cleaned the kitchen, did laundry, prepped dinner. Chelsea worked in her home office most days, door closed, emerging only for coffee or a protein bar. Martin came home late, 8, 9, sometimes 10 o'clock. I tried to talk to him. "How was your day?" I'd ask when he finally walked through the door, loosening his tie. "Long," he'd say. "Exhausting. I just need to decompress, Mom." He'd eat whatever I'd made for dinner, reheated by then, standing at the counter scrolling through his phone. Then he'd go upstairs. I'd hear him and Chelsea talking in low voices, sometimes arguing. I never asked what about. On Sunday, my first Sunday in Denver, I wanted to go to Mass. There was a Catholic church 6 blocks away, St. Thomas Aquinas, a beautiful old stone building I'd seen on my walks with Joshua. I asked Martin at breakfast if I could borrow the car. "Mass?" he said, surprised. "Mom, I didn't know you still." "I've always gone to Mass," I said quietly. "Every Sunday. Your father and I." "Right. Yeah, of course." He glanced at Chelsea, who was scrolling through her phone, not listening. "I mean, sure, but could you go to the evening one? Chelsea and I have brunch plans, and we need you to watch the kids." I hesitated. "The evening Mass is at 5. I could..." "Perfect," Chelsea said without looking up. "We'll be back by 4. They left at 10:30. I spent the day with Emma and Joshua, coloring books, dinosaur battles, a picnic lunch in the backyard. At 4:30, they still weren't home. At 5, I called Martin. It went to voicemail. At 5:30, they walked in, laughing, smelling like wine. "Oh God, is it that late?" Chelsea said, glancing at her watch. "Sorry, Evelyn. Brunch turned into... well, you know how it is. I didn't go to Mass that night. I sat in my room, listening to the kids play downstairs, and I prayed alone. I asked God for patience, for understanding, for the strength to see this through. I didn't know then how much strength I'd need. The first real sign came 3 weeks in. I'd made lasagna for dinner, homemade sauce, 3 kinds of cheese, the recipe Richard used to love. I'd spent all afternoon on it. The kids ate happily, sauce smeared on their faces. Martin came home late as usual, and I heated him a plate. Chelsea came into the kitchen while he was eating. She looked at the lasagna, then at me. "Is this full of carbs?" "It's lasagna," I said carefully. "Right, yeah." She laughed, but it was cold. "It's just, we're trying to eat cleaner, Evelyn. More vegetables, lean proteins, less this." She waved at the dish dismissively. Martin looked up. "It's fine, Chels. It's good. I'm just saying." She poured herself a glass of white wine from the fridge. "If Evelyn's going to cook, maybe we should give her some guidelines." I felt my face flush. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize..." "It's fine," Martin said quickly. "Really, Mom. It's delicious. But Chelsea had already left the room. The second sign came in October. Emma's school was having a fall festival, and I'd volunteered to help. I made cupcakes, vanilla with buttercream frosting, decorated with little candy pumpkins. Emma was so excited. "Grandma's cupcakes," she kept saying. Chelsea saw them on the counter the morning of the festival. "Did you make these?" "For Emma's class," I said. The sign-up sheet said we could bring baked goods. She picked one up, examined it. "How much sugar is in these?" I didn't know what to say. "It's a cupcake. A normal amount?" She set it down. "Evelyn, I don't want Emma eating this much sugar. It's not healthy. It's one cupcake at a party." "Right. And then she comes home wired and crashes and has a meltdown. I'm the one who has to deal with that." She crossed her arms. "I'll call the school and let them know we're bringing fruit instead." Emma cried when I told her. I held her while she sobbed into my shoulder, and I felt something inside me crack. By Thanksgiving, I'd learned the rules. Don't cook anything Chelsea hasn't approved. Don't give the kids sugar. Don't leave messes. Don't talk to Martin about anything serious. He's too stressed. Don't go to Sunday Mass if they need you. Don't take up space. I'd become a ghost in my own son's house. I cleaned, I cooked, I cared for the children, and I disappeared. And then came Thanksgiving. Chelsea's parents arrived on Wednesday night. Robert and Patricia, from a suburb outside Boston. Robert was a retired investment banker, loud in opinions. Patricia was thin, elegant, with Chelsea's same sharp edges. They brought expensive wine and stories about their golf club and their Mediterranean cruise. I set the guest room for them, the nice one across from the master. I moved my things to the basement guest room, smaller, with a window near the ceiling that let in a sliver of light. "Thanks, Evelyn," Martin said when he saw. "I know it's not ideal." "It's fine," I said. It wasn't fine. Thanksgiving morning, I woke at 5 to start cooking. Chelsea had ordered most of the meal from a trendy restaurant downtown. Lamb, roasted vegetables, some kind of quinoa stuffing. But I'd offered to make the pies, pumpkin and apple, from scratch. I worked quietly, rolling dough, peeling apples, mixing spices. The house smelled like cinnamon and butter. For a moment, I felt at home. At 10, Chelsea came downstairs in silk pajamas. She looked at the pies cooling on the counter. "Oh, you made those?" "Yes. I ordered dessert too, actually. From the same place. A chocolate torte." She poured coffee. "But I'm sure yours are nice." At noon, I set the dining room table. Chelsea's wedding china, the silver I'd polished the night before, linen napkins folded into swans. I placed name cards at each seat. Robert, Patricia, Chelsea, Martin, Emma, Joshua. There were 7 chairs, 7 cards. I counted again. Chelsea walked in, adjusting a flower arrangement. "Looks great, Evelyn. Really beautiful. Where should I sit?" I asked. She blinked. "Oh, well, we're a little crowded, you know. I thought maybe you'd be more comfortable in the kitchen. That way you can, keep an eye on everything." My mouth went dry. "The kitchen. I mean, there's just not enough room out here." She gestured at the table as if it were self-evident. "And you don't really drink wine anyway, right? So—" "Right," I said quietly. "The kitchen is fine." At 2 o'clock, they sat down to eat. I could hear them from the kitchen. Laughter, the clink of glasses, Chelsea's father telling some story about his golf handicap. I made myself a plate from what was left. There was no lamb, no vegetables, just the ends of a baguette Chelsea had bought. The crusty heels no one wanted. I sat at the kitchen island, staring at the bread. And then Chelsea walked in. She was holding an empty wine glass, her cheeks flushed. "Oh, Evelyn," she said, and she was smiling. "You don't mind, do you? Eating in here?" I looked at her. I looked at the bread. "I mean, you've always been poor," she said, and her voice was light, almost teasing. "You're used to it, right?" She filled her wine glass from the bottle on the counter. French, $60, and walked back to the dining room. I sat there for a long time. I ate that bread slowly, mechanically. Each bite was like swallowing stones, and somewhere inside me, in a place I didn't know was still alive, something broke open. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the basement guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the muffled sounds of celebration above me. Chelsea's parents left around 11, drunk and loud. I heard Martin helping them into an Uber. Heard Chelsea laughing about something her mother had said. The house finally went quiet around midnight. I got up and sat by the small window. Outside, the neighborhood was dark except for porch lights and the occasional car passing. Cherry Creek at night looked like a postcard. Manicured lawns, expensive cars in driveways, the kind of success that's supposed to feel like safety. But I didn't feel safe. I felt like I was suffocating. I thought about the bread. I thought about Chelsea's words, the casual cruelty in them, the way she'd smiled. You've always been poor. You're used to it. As if poverty were a moral failing. As if I'd chosen it. As if the 34 years I'd spent raising Martin alone, working double shifts as a nurse's aide, stretching every dollar until it screamed. As if none of that mattered because I didn't have granite countertops and French wine. I thought about Richard. He'd died without life insurance. We couldn't afford it. I'd paid for his funeral with a credit card I spent 5 years paying off. I'd worked through my grief because I had a son to raise, a mortgage to pay, a life to keep stitched together. Martin got a full scholarship to CU Boulder, but I still paid for his books, his housing, his food. I still sent him money when he needed it. I still co-signed his first apartment lease, his first car loan. I still co-signed his mortgage on this house. That thought stopped me cold. I stood up, went to my purse, and I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking. I opened my banking app and navigated to the documents folder where I'd saved the mortgage paperwork. I hadn't looked at it in 2 years. I'd signed it and tried to forget about it, because Martin promised he'd refinance within a year, as soon as his credit improved. But he never had. I read through the document slowly, squinting at the legal language. There it was. Evelyn Marie Crane, co-signor and guarantor, jointly and severally liable for all obligations under this agreement. My house in Grand Junction was listed as collateral. If Martin defaulted, they'd come for me. And according to the terms, I had the right to withdraw my guarantee with written notice. If I did, the loan would be called due immediately, meaning Martin would have 30 days to refinance or pay the balance in full, or the bank would foreclose. I sat there holding my phone, my heart pounding. I could do this. I could take my name off this loan. I could go home. But what kind of person does that? What kind of mother pulls the rug out from under her own son? I set the phone down and pressed my palms against my eyes. I prayed, really prayed, for the first time in weeks. God, I don't know what to do. I don't know if this is anger or clarity. I don't know if I'm being vindictive or just trying to survive. Please, show me the right path. And then I heard it, clear as if someone had spoken aloud. You taught him to stand on his own. Now let him. I didn't make a decision that night. I made it the next morning. I woke at dawn, exhausted but clear-headed. I got dressed, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen island with my laptop. I Googled the bank's phone number, the process for withdrawing from a co-signed loan. I read through forums where people described similar situations. Parents who'd risked everything to help their kids buy homes, only to be left holding the debt when things went south. One comment stuck with me. You can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. At 8 o'clock, I called the bank. A woman named Jennifer answered, her voice bright and professional. First National, how can I help you? I need to remove myself as a co-signer on a mortgage, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was calm, steady. I can help with that. Can I get the loan number? I gave it to her. I heard typing. Okay, Mrs. Crane. I see you're listed as the guarantor on a property in Denver. To remove yourself, you'll need to submit a formal withdrawal request in writing. I can email you the form. And what happens to the loan? There was a pause. Well, once we receive your withdrawal, we'll notify the primary borrower that the guarantee has been revoked. They'll have 30 days to either refinance the loan without your name or pay the balance in full. If they're unable to do either, the loan will be in default and will begin foreclosure proceedings. My stomach turned. 30 days. Yes, ma'am. It's standard for this type of situation. Can you email me that form? Absolutely. What's the best email address? I gave it to her. We hung up. 2 minutes later, the form was in my inbox. I stared at it for a long time. All I had to do was fill it out, sign it, and send it back. That was it. One decision, and I could go home. But this would devastate Martin. This would take his house, his stability, everything he'd worked for. And the kids, Emma and Joshua, they love this house, this neighborhood, their school, their friends. I closed the laptop. I went upstairs and knocked on Martin's bedroom door. It was 8:30. He was probably getting ready for work. Chelsea answered, still in her pajamas, looking annoyed. Evelyn, what's up? I need to talk to Martin. She frowned. He's in the shower. Can it wait? No. She stared at me, surprised by my tone. Okay. Hold on. She shut the door. A few minutes later, Martin came out, hair wet, buttoning his shirt. Mom, what's wrong? I need to talk to you, privately. We went downstairs to his study, a small room off the living room, filled with law books and framed diplomas. He closed the door. What's going on? You're freaking me out. I sat down in the leather chair across from his desk. Do you remember when you bought this house? You asked me to co-sign the loan. His face changed. Yeah, of course. You said you'd refinance within a year. That was 2 years ago, Martin. He ran a hand through his wet hair. I know. It's just, my credit still isn't where it needs to be, and rates are higher now, and... He stopped. Why are you bringing this up? Because I'm thinking about removing myself from the loan. The color drained from his face. What? I called the bank this morning. I have the right to withdraw my guarantee. If I do, you'll have 30 days to refinance or pay off the loan. Mom. He stood up, his hands shaking. You can't do that. We'll lose the house. We don't have that kind of money saved, and there's no way I can refinance in 30 days. You know that. I know. Then why... He stopped, his mouth open. Is this about Thanksgiving? About Chelsea? I looked at him. Really looked at him. My son, my only child. The boy I'd raised to be kind and fair and strong. When did you stop seeing me, Martin? What? Mom, I see you every day. No, you don't. You see someone who cleans your house and watches your kids. You don't see me. My voice broke. Your wife humiliated me yesterday. She gave me scraps while the rest of you ate like kings. And she told me I was used to being poor. And you said nothing. I didn't know. You weren't there. You're never there. You work late every night. And when you come home, you barely talk to me. You barely talk to your own children. Do you even know what Emma's favorite color is? Do you know Joshua's afraid of the dark? He sat down heavily. I'm trying, Mom. I'm trying to provide for them, to give them a good life. At what cost? I leaned forward. You've built this beautiful house, this perfect life, and you've forgotten what actually matters. Chelsea treats me like hired help. She treats you like an ATM. And those kids, those beautiful kids, they're growing up in a house where love is conditional, where worth is measured by how much you cost. He put his head in his hands. I don't know what you want me to do. I want you to stand up. I want you to be the man your father and I raised you to be. Dad's been dead for 20 years, Mom. And I've been here. I've always been here. Even when it cost me everything. I stood up. I'm going back to Grand Junction. I'm withdrawing my guarantee on this loan. What you do after that is up to you. Mom, please. I'm not doing this to punish you, Martin. I'm doing it to save myself. Because if I stay here, I will disappear. And I've spent too many years surviving to let that happen now. I walked to the door. Mom! I stopped, my hand on the doorknob. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I'm so sorry. I nodded. I know, but sorry doesn't change what's already broken. I went upstairs and started packing. I moved methodically. Clothes, toiletries, the few personal items I'd brought. I heard Chelsea's voice downstairs, raised and angry. I heard Martin's low murmur in response. I kept packing. Emma appeared in my doorway, holding her stuffed rabbit. Grandma, are you leaving? I sat on the bed and pulled her close. Yes, sweetheart. I'm going back to my house. Why? Because it's time. But who's going to read to me? My heart broke. Your mom and dad will. They love you so much, Emma. They're going to take good care of you. Will you come back? I kissed the top of her head. She smelled like strawberry shampoo. I don't know, honey. She started crying. I held her until Chelsea appeared, her face tight with fury. Emma, go to your room. But Grandma, now. Emma ran off sobbing. Chelsea stood in the doorway, arms crossed. You're really doing this? Yes. Because of one comment? Are you serious? It wasn't one comment, Chelsea. It was 2 years of them. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh my God, you're so dramatic. We gave you a place to live, Evelyn. We let you be part of our family. And this is how you repay us? You didn't let me be part of anything. You let me be your servant. Her face went red. Get out. Get out of my house. It's not your house, I said quietly. It's the bank's. You'll figure that out soon enough. I loaded my car in silence. Martin helped, his face pale and drawn. Chelsea stayed inside. The kids watched from the window, Emma crying, Joshua waving. I waved back, my throat too tight to speak. Martin walked me to the driver's side. Mom, if you do this, I don't know if I can forgive you. I looked at him. My son, my baby, the person I'd sacrificed everything for. Then we'll both have to learn to live with that. I got in the car. I love you, he said. I love you too. That's why I have to go. I drove away without looking back. The drive to Grand Junction was the longest 4 hours of my life. I cried for the first hour, then went numb. The mountains rose around me, the autumn aspens glowing gold in the afternoon light. I stopped at a rest area near Vale and called my bank again. Jennifer, it's Evelyn Crane. I'd like to submit that withdrawal form. Of course, Mrs. Crane. Do you have it filled out? I'd done it in the car, parked at the rest stop, my hands shaking so badly I could barely sign my name. Yes, I'm emailing it now. I sent it from my phone. It was done. I sat there in the parking lot watching trucks and RVs come and go, and I waited for guilt to crush me. But it didn't come. What came instead was something lighter, something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. I got home just as the sun was setting. My little house looked smaller than I remembered, shabbier. The paint was peeling on the shutters. The lawn needed mowing. But when I unlocked the door and stepped inside, I felt like I could breathe again. I walked through the rooms slowly, touching familiar things. The couch Richard and I had bought at a thrift store. The kitchen table where I'd taught Martin to read. The rose garden out back, overgrown but still blooming. I sat on the back porch with a cup of tea and watched the stars come out over the book cliffs. I thought about Martin, about Emma and Joshua. I thought about Chelsea's face when she realized what I'd done, and I prayed. Not for forgiveness, not for guidance, just gratitude. Thank you for bringing me home. Thank you for giving me the strength to choose myself. My phone rang. It was Martin. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Chelsea this time. I turned it off. I sat there until midnight, wrapped in Richard's old flannel, listening to the crickets and the distant sound of the highway. I was 71 years old, and for the first time in 2 years, I was free. Whatever came next, I'd face it. But I'd face it here, in my own home, on my own terms. 3 days later, Martin showed up. I was in the garden pulling weeds when I heard his car in the driveway. I stood up slowly, brushing dirt from my jeans. He got out, looking exhausted. He'd lost weight. There were dark circles under his eyes. Mom! Martin! We stood there, 10 feet apart, the space between us filled with everything we hadn't said. Chelsea's parents are lending us the money, he said finally. To refinance. We're not losing the house. Good, I said. I'm glad. But they're putting conditions on it. Chelsea's furious. She says you ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped holding it together for you. He looked down at his shoes. I talked to her about how she treated you. She says she didn't mean it the way it sounded. She meant it. Yeah. He met my eyes. I think she did. We were quiet for a long time. A breeze moved through the garden, carrying the scent of roses and sage. I should have protected you, he said. I should have stood up for you. I was so focused on keeping the peace, on keeping Chelsea happy, that I didn't see what it was costing you. Costing us. His voice cracked. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I walked over to him. I took his hands in mine. His father's hands, strong and scarred from work. I forgive you, Martin. But you need to do better. For Emma. For Joshua. For yourself. I know. He was crying now. I don't know how to fix this. One day at a time. One choice at a time. I squeezed his hands. You're a good man. You just forgot for a while. Can you come back? The kids miss you. I miss you. I shook my head. No. This is my home. You're welcome to visit. You and the kids anytime. But I'm not coming back. What about Chelsea? She's your wife. You'll have to figure that out, but... Martin. I held his gaze. Don't let her make you into someone you're not. Don't let her turn your home into a place where love has a price tag. He nodded, wiping his eyes. We stood there in the garden, my son and me, and I felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly, not reconciliation, but a beginning, a crack in the wall that might someday become a door. I love you, he said. I love you too, always. He got back in his car. I watched him drive away, back toward Denver, back toward his complicated life. And I went inside, made myself dinner, and sat down to read a book I'd been meaning to get to for years. Outside, the sun set over the valley, painting the sky in shades of grace. The first month back in Grand Junction, I barely left the house. I woke each morning to silence. No children's footsteps overhead. No Chelsea's heels clicking on hardwood. No pressure to be anywhere or do anything for anyone. Just me, the morning light through my kitchen window, and the slow, steady rhythm of a life I'd almost forgotten I had. I cleaned. I scrubbed years of neglect from baseboards and windowsills. I repainted the guest room. A soft yellow this time, warm and inviting. I spent hours in the garden pulling weeds, pruning roses, replanting the herb bed Richard and I had started decades ago. My hands blistered, then calloused. My knees ached. But every evening when I stood back and looked at what I'd done, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. My phone rang constantly those first weeks. Martin called every few days, awkward and tentative. Just checking in, Mom. Making sure you're okay. I kept the conversation short, kind but distant. Chelsea never called. I didn't expect her to. Emma called once using Martin's phone. Grandma, I miss you, she said, her voice small and sad. When are you coming back? I'm not, sweetheart, but you can visit me anytime you want. Would you like that? Yes. She sounded so hopeful it broke my heart. Can I come this weekend? There was a pause, then Martin's voice. We'll talk about it, Emma. Say goodbye to Grandma. They didn't come that weekend, or the next. I told myself it was fine. They had their lives. I had mine. But at night, alone in my bed, I missed those children with an ache that felt physical. 6 weeks after I left Denver, I went to Sunday Mass for the first time since Thanksgiving. St. Joseph's in Grand Junction was small, old, beautiful in a worn kind of way. Wooden pews polished by generations of hands, stained glass windows that threw colored light across the floor, the smell of incense and candle wax. I'd been going there for 30 years, but I'd been gone long enough that some faces looked unfamiliar. I slipped into a pew in the back, hoping to be invisible. But after Mass, Father Mike found me in the parking lot. He was in his 70s now, white-haired and kind-eyed, the same priest who'd buried Richard, who'd baptized Martin. "Evelyn," he said, his face lighting up. "I thought that was you. Welcome back." "Thank you, Father." "I heard you'd moved to Denver to help your son." "I did, for a while." He nodded slowly, reading what I wasn't saying. "And now you're home." "Yes." We stood there in the November cold, breath fogging in the air. Finally, he said, "Are you all right?" No one had asked me that, not once since I'd left. The question undid something in me. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I did something that might have been right, but it hurt people I love. And I don't know if that makes me strong or just selfish." He was quiet for a moment. "Come walk with me." We walked around the church grounds, past the small cemetery where Richard was buried, past the garden the parish ladies maintained. Father Mike kept his hands in his coat pockets, his breath steady in the cold. "When I was a young priest," he said, "I had this idea that holiness meant never saying no, that serving God meant serving everyone, all the time, until there was nothing left of me. I burned out within 5 years, had to take a leave of absence, spent 6 months in therapy trying to figure out why I felt like a failure. I listened, surprised. I'd never heard him talk about this. My therapist asked me a question I've never forgotten. How can you give from an empty well? And I realized I'd been so busy pouring myself out for everyone else that I'd never let God refill me. I'd made an idol out of my own exhaustion." He stopped walking and turned to me. "Evelyn, setting boundaries isn't selfish. Sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for the people who've forgotten how to stand on their own." My eyes filled with tears. "I feel like I abandoned them." "Did you? Or did you stop enabling them to take you for granted?" I thought about that, about the 2 years I'd spent invisible, diminished, trying to hold together a family that wasn't mine to hold, about the bread on the plate and Chelsea's smile. "I don't know if Martin will ever really forgive me," I said. "Forgiveness isn't something you can control. You can only control whether you forgive yourself." He put a hand on my shoulder. "Have you?" I looked out at the mountains, the snow just starting to dust the peaks. "I'm trying." "Then you're already halfway there." December came, and with it, a cold snap that turned Grand Junction into a snow globe. I strung lights on my porch, put up a small tree in the living room, baked cookies I didn't have anyone to give to. It was the first Christmas since Richard died that I'd be completely alone, and I wasn't sure how I felt about that. On December 15th, Martin called. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something." My stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Chelsea and I have been going to marriage counseling." I sat down. "Oh, yeah, it's been hard, but good, I think. We're working through a lot of stuff." He paused. "I told the therapist what happened, with you, what Chelsea said on Thanksgiving." I waited. "She made me see something I didn't want to see. That I'd let Chelsea treat you that way because it was easier than standing up to her. Because I was afraid of conflict. Afraid of her being angry with me." His voice cracked. "I was a coward, Mom. And I'm ashamed of that." "Martin, let me finish, please." He took a shaky breath. "Chelsea's been resistant to seeing her part in this. But the therapist challenged her, asked her why she felt the need to diminish you. And it came out. All this stuff about her own mother. About how she was raised to believe that weakness was shameful, that needing help meant you were less than." He paused. "I'm not excusing what she said, but I'm starting to understand it. Understanding isn't the same as forgiving. I know, but it's a start. Another pause. Chelsea wants to talk to you. She asked if she could call you. My first instinct was to say no, but I heard Father Mike's voice in my head. How can you give from an empty well? And I realized my well wasn't empty anymore. I'd spent the last 2 months filling it back up. She can call, I said. But Martin, I need you to understand something. I'm not coming back. No matter what she says, no matter how this conversation goes, I'm happy here. I'm home. I know, Mom. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm just asking you to listen. Then I'll listen. Chelsea called that night. I almost didn't answer. I stared at her name on my phone screen for 3 rings, my heart pounding. Finally, I picked up. Hello, Chelsea. Evelyn. Her voice was tight, formal. Thank you for taking my call. Of course. There was a long silence. I could hear her breathing, could picture her pacing in that big, beautiful house that almost wasn't hers anymore. I owe you an apology, she said finally. The words sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced them. What I said on Thanksgiving was cruel and unacceptable. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I waited. When she didn't say anything else, I said, "Why did you say it?" "What? Why did you say it?" "Not the apology just now. The thing about me being poor. Why did you feel the need to say that?" Another long silence. Then quietly, "Because it made me feel powerful." The honesty of it surprised me. "Why did you need to feel powerful?" "I don't know, She stopped. I heard her take a breath. My mother never let me forget where we came from. We were poor when I was a kid. Really poor. Food stamps, thrift store clothes, the whole thing. She clawed her way up, married my stepdad, and suddenly we were country club people. But she was always terrified we'd slip back. So she taught me to look down on people who hadn't made it out. Her voice wavered. She taught me that needing help was weakness, that being poor meant you'd failed. I closed my eyes. So when you looked at me, I saw someone who reminded me of where I came from, and I hated it. I hated that you were in my house, that you needed us, that you... She choked on the words. "I'm so sorry, Evelyn. You were nothing but kind to me, and I treated you like you were beneath me. I don't know how to make that right." "You can't," I said gently. "You can only do better going forward." "I don't know if I know how. None of us do, Chelsea. We just have to try." She was crying now. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm working on it," I said. And I meant it. Not because she deserved it, but because I did. Because carrying that anger was like swallowing poison and expecting her to die. "Martin wants to bring the kids to see you. For Christmas, if that's okay." My heart leapt. "I'd love that." "Okay, I'll let him set it up." She paused. "I'm not coming. I think that's best. But I want the kids to have a relationship with you. You're their grandmother. They need you." "Thank you," I said quietly. We hung up. I sat there in my living room, the Christmas tree lights blinking softly, and I cried. Not from sadness, from relief, from the slow, painful, beautiful work of healing. Martin and the kids came on December 23rd. I watched from the window as his car pulled up, as Emma and Joshua tumbled out, bundled in winter coats. Emma saw me and ran, slipping on the icy walkway, catching herself. I opened the door and she crashed into me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "Grandma!" "Hi, sweetheart." I held her tight, breathing in the strawberry smell of her hair. "I missed you so much." Joshua was more tentative. He hung back, holding Martin's hand, watching me with those big brown eyes. I knelt down, my knees protesting. "Hi, little man. Do you remember me?" He nodded slowly. "I have hot chocolate inside. And cookies. Want some?" His face lit up. "Cookies?" Martin laughed. "He's all yours, Mom." We spent 3 days together. I read Emma the Chronicles of Narnia every night before bed, her head on my shoulder. I played dinosaurs with Joshua, building volcanoes out of couch cushions and blankets. I cooked the meals I'd wanted to cook in Denver: spaghetti with homemade sauce, chicken noodle soup, chocolate chip pancakes. Martin and I talked, really talked, about everything. About Chelsea, about his job, about the compromises he'd made trying to keep everyone happy. "I'm thinking about changing firms," he said one night, after the kids were asleep. We were sitting on the back porch, wrapped in blankets, drinking tea. "Somewhere with better hours. I've missed so much of their childhood already." "They'd love that." "Chelsea's scared. We'd have to downsize, move to a smaller house, a cheaper neighborhood. She's not sure she can do that." "Can you?" He looked out at the dark valley, the scattered lights of town. "I don't know, but I'm tired, Mom. I'm tired of living a life that looks good on paper but feels empty." "Then change it, before you wake up one day and realize it's too late." He turned to me. "Is that what you did when you left?" "Yes." I woke up. On Christmas Eve, we went to Mass at St. Joseph's. Emma held my hand the whole time, Joshua sitting on Martin's lap, surprisingly still. When Father Mike gave the homily about Mary and Joseph finding room at the inn, about making space for the sacred in the chaos of ordinary life, I felt Martin glance at me. After Mass, we lit candles in the little side chapel. Emma made a wish, her face serious in the candlelight. Joshua just stared at the flames, mesmerized. Martin lit one last candle, and I watched his lips move in silent prayer. We drove home through the snow, the kids singing carols off-key, and I felt something settle in my chest. Not happiness, exactly. Something deeper. Peace. They left on December 26th. Emma cried. Joshua clung to my leg. Martin hugged me tight and whispered, "Thank you, Mom, for everything, for not giving up on me." "I could never give up on you," I said, even when I had to walk away. I waved from the porch as they drove off, and then I went inside to my quiet house. I made tea. I sat in the living room, looking at the tree, at the ornaments Emma and Joshua had made. Construction paper angels with glitter and glue. My phone buzzed. A text from Martin. "The kids want to come back for spring break. Would that be okay?" I smiled. "More than okay. I'll be here." January arrived, cold and clear. I started volunteering at the church, helping with the food pantry on Wednesdays, reading to kids in the after-school program on Thursdays. I joined a book club at the library. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my years in Denver. One afternoon in late January, I was kneading bread dough, real bread, with yeast and flour and thyme, when my doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on my apron and answered. It was Chelsea. She stood on my porch in a long coat and scarf, looking nervous. "Hi, Evelyn." I stared at her. "Hi. I'm sorry for just showing up. Martin told me not to, but I needed to see you." She shifted her weight. "Can I come in?" I hesitated. Then I stepped aside. "Come in." She followed me to the kitchen. I poured 2 cups of coffee, set them on the table. We sat across from each other, the bread dough rising in its bowl between us. "I drove 4 hours to tell you something," Chelsea said. She wrapped her hands around the mug. "I've been in therapy. Individual therapy, not just the couple stuff. And my therapist asked me to think about the people I've hurt. To really sit with that." She looked up at me, her eyes red. "You were at the top of the list." I sipped my coffee and waited. I told myself I was helping Martin by being strong, by being ambitious, by pushing him to earn more, do more, be more. But really, I was terrified. Terrified that if we slipped, if we failed, I'd end up back where I started. And I took that fear out on you. She wiped her eyes. "You came into our home with nothing but love. You gave us everything, and I repaid you with contempt." "Yes," I said simply. "You did." She flinched. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I forgive myself. But I needed you to know. I'm trying to be better. For Martin, for the kids, and because it's the right thing to do." I looked at her. This woman who'd humiliated me, who'd made me feel small and worthless. And I saw something I hadn't seen before. Fear. The kind of fear that makes people cruel because they don't know how else to protect themselves. You hurt me, Chelsea, I said, deeply. And I don't know if our relationship can ever be what it should be. But I don't hate you, and I hope you find peace. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. Probably, I said. But Grace usually is. She didn't stay long. We talked a little more. Stilted, careful conversation. And then she left. I watched her car disappear down the street, and I felt something release in me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the possibility of it. The first small crack in the ice. I went back to my bread dough. I shaped it into loaves, let it rise again, baked it until the house smelled like yeast and warmth. When it was done, I sliced a piece, spread it with butter, and ate it slowly. This bread was nothing like the bread I'd been given on Thanksgiving. This bread I'd made with my own hands, in my own time, in my own kitchen. This bread was mine. Spring came early to Grand Junction that year. By March, the desert was blooming. Cacti flowers in improbable shades of pink and orange, sage going silver green, wildflowers carpeting the hillsides. Emma and Joshua came for spring break, as promised. We hiked the trails at Colorado National Monument, flew kites in the park, planted tomatoes in the garden. Martin came too, but only for the first weekend. I've got to get back, he explained. Work stuff, but I'll pick them up on Sunday. Is everything okay? I asked. He smiled. A real smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. Yeah, Mom, it actually is. I took that new job, the one with better hours. We're moving at the end of the summer. Smaller house, same school district. Chelsea's adjusting. Good for you. Good for all of us, he said. I'm home for dinner now. Every night. I tuck the kids in. I'm learning to be their dad again, not just their bank account. I hugged him tight. Your father would be so proud of you. I hope so. He pulled back, looked at me. Are you happy, Mom? I thought about my little house, my garden, my quiet life. I thought about Wednesday mornings at the food pantry, Thursday afternoons reading to children, Sunday Mass with Father Mike. I thought about the book club and the friends I was rediscovering, and the simple joy of waking up each morning with nothing to prove. Yes, I said, I really am. On their last night, I made spaghetti, the recipe Richard used to make, the one Martin had grown up on. We ate at my old kitchen table, the same table where I'd raised my son, and the kids told me about school and friends, and their new house to be. Emma showed me a drawing she'd made. Our house, mine in Grand Junction, with flowers and a swing and a big sun overhead. This is my favorite place, she said. Mine too, I said, my throat tight. After dinner, we went outside to look at the stars. The sky was impossibly clear, the Milky Way a river of light overhead. Joshua fell asleep in my lap. Emma leaned against my shoulder. Grandma, she said softly, I'm sorry Mommy was mean to you. Oh, sweetheart, that's not your fault. But I'm still sorry. I love you. I love you too, Emma. So much. Martin was quiet beside me. Finally, he said, Thank you for not giving up on us, Mom. For doing the hard thing, even when it hurt. I looked up at the stars, those ancient lights that had been shining long before I was born, and would shine long after I was gone. I thought about the bread I'd been given, and the bread I'd baked. I thought about the choices that break us, and the choices that save us, and how sometimes they're the same choice. I didn't give up on you, I said. I just learned to give up on the version of this story where I disappear. They left the next morning, Emma crying, Joshua waving from the back seat, Martin promising they'd be back soon. I stood on my porch and watched them drive away, the spring wind warm on my face. I went inside, poured myself coffee, and sat in Richard's old chair. I thought about where I'd been a year ago, invisible, diminished, eating bread I didn't make, and swallowing hurt I didn't deserve. I thought about where I was now. Whole, free, home. The phone rang. It was Father Mike. "Evelyn, I hope I'm not calling too early. I have a favor to ask." "Of course, Father, what is it?" "We have a woman in the parish, recently widowed. She's struggling. I thought maybe you could reach out to her. Take her to coffee, just be present." I smiled. "I'd be happy to. Thank you. I knew I could count on you." We hung up. I finished my coffee and got ready for the day. A shower, clean clothes, the small rituals of a life that was mine. I looked at myself in the mirror, at the woman I'd become. 71 years old, silver-haired, wrinkled, but alive. Really, truly alive. I thought about the widow I'd be meeting, about the conversation we'd have. I thought about the bread we'd break together, the story I'd tell her about learning to choose yourself without losing your capacity for love. And I thought about grace, the kind that arrives when you least expect it, in the form of silence after noise, peace after chaos, home after exile. I put on my coat and stepped outside into the bright Colorado morning. Behind me, the door to my house stood open. An invitation, a reminder. You can always come home. You can always start again. You just have to be brave enough to choose yourself first. A story about dignity, redemption, and the quiet courage it takes to save yourself. "You've always been poor. You're used to it," my daughter-in-law said when she gave me breadcrumbs while eating expensive meats and imported wines. The next day, she was shocked by what I did.